It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Cory Pinegar. He's the CEO of CallForce, a dentist solutions company dedicated to helping dentists across the country succeed in their dental practices. He takes great pride in filling dental seats and increasing revenues for dental offices. His company offers a variety of excellent services, from scheduling appointments with your overdue patients to answering the phones when you cannot. He is focused on helping dental offices reschedule overdue patients. They have a live call center that acts on behalf of the dental offices to schedule patients that have not been seen and within 6 to 36 months. And if you're, that's a half year to 3 years, if you're doing the math, and have clients throughout all of North America. When he's not helping dentists out, he enjoys keeping active and loves to play golf, tennis. CallForce offers outbound overdue recare, overflow answering, and website chat. And the reason I had him on the show, it's not a commercial, he didn't give me money, none of that stuff. The reason I called him to come on the show is because when I look at the DSOs, they got lots of smart things they're doing, and they got weak stuff. And the weak stuff for anybody trying to hire a dentist is just amazing staff turnover. When you hire a dentist to be associate, it doesn't matter if you own 500 offices or one office. They didn't go to school 8 years to be your employee. So usually they only stay there for a year. And they're, and that really hurts the brand when I have patients that come in and say, well, every time I go in that place, it's got a different dentist in there. But one of the things, if not the best thing that DSOs do, is these call centers. So I'm down here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I went over and saw Bob Fontana a couple months ago when he opened up his new call center in Chandler, Arizona, which is I could have walked there after work. And they only do incoming calls for their own 1,000 offices. It's not quite 1,000. It's like between 900 to 1,000. They don't take existing patients. So you look at all their marketing. If you're a new patient, call this number. If you're an existing patient, call that. They just want the new patients. And my God, it looks like an aircraft carrier, just a sea of cubicles. And you walk around there, and I've seen so many call centers. When I'm in Effingham, Rick Workman said the only limit to the growth of his call center is that he's in a town of 10,000. He says, I've hired everyone that'll come. If I lived in Phoenix like where I live, he said it might be 3 times bigger. Bob Fontana just moved out here. So these call centers are just amazing, which tells you 2 things. The general dentist, this must be where he's dropping the ball, because it's such a competitive advantage, and it's just everything. So, tell me your journey in this space. How did you end up? You're in Salt Lake City, right? No, you're in Provo.
Yeah.
So you're in Provo, Utah. So were you born in Provo?
No, grew up on the East Coast. Moved out here when I was probably 14 for my dad's work. Been here ever since.
And they had a couple big companies. It was big work. What was that big company? My God, they had the first internet browser. They went to lawsuit with Bill Gates' Microsoft up there.
Yeah, I'm trying WordPerfect. No.
Yeah, another one. But anyway, it's kind of funny because everybody thinks of Silicon Valley, but Utah is Silicon Slopes. There's so many startups. And then here you are in dentistry. I mean, there's Gordon Christian, Weave, Dentrix, Arrowhead, Ultradent. I mean, Utah, they should rename the state Dental Town. I mean, it is just crazy dentistry. So you moved back from the East Coast. You ended up in Provo. And how did your journey end you up in the CEO of CallForce?
Yeah, it's quite a unique story. So my aunt was working for Weave, and this is when Weave is now a $1 billion company. They're probably close to 1,000 employees. When my aunt was working there, she was the executive assistant to the CEO, and she was probably in the top or in the first 50 employees. And she called me one day. I was going to BYU here in Provo, and she said, "Hey, we've got this closet that's huge, and we need some help cleaning it out. We'll pay you $500 if you want to come clean it for us." And being a, college student, I was super down, and I could go up at 11 o'clock at night and work on cleaning this closet. And from starting cleaning a closet to weave, it morphed into a part-time job where I was helping with miscellaneous projects for the COO and CEO. And then in late 2016, Howard, Weave was in a position where they were burning cash quite aggressively, and they needed to lay off about 40% of their staff. And there was a division called Recall Solutions. And Recall Solutions is actually what Weave was started as. And it's just a division that made outbound hygiene calls for dental practices from a call center. And they either needed to sell it, shutter it, or, give it to someone. And they approached my partner and I, Casey Henson, and said, hey, do you want to take this off our hands for pretty much a nominal amount of money? And so in December of 2016, we purchased that from them. I think it was like 4 employees at the time, and that's how we got into the business.
Well, good for you. Are you glad you got into that business?
Oh, yeah. It's been awesome. It's been hard. I would never say it's been like perfectly rosy, but it's definitely been a growing experience. It's been really fun as well.
So how has, at the time you got a distressed property, is Weave back on its feet? How's Weave doing now?
No, they are crushing it now. I mean, they just raised a recent round of money, which was almost $100 million in recent funding, and they're valued over $1 billion now as a company as well.
Right, but see, you're how old? But anyway, you're the age of my children. But see, I lived through this. So from '94 to 2000, it was everybody. You'd say, hey, so how's your business doing? Oh, I got so many clicks, and I got so many downloads, and I got so many this, and it's like, okay, well, I eat at the Waffle House, and they only use cash. How much cash profit are you making? So now it's a very interesting time in the world because the coronavirus was probably the last straw for a very overweighted stock market. And we'll get to see who is swimming with no swim trunks on and who is, really that's what it's going to come down to. So there's companies that burn through cash, growth, no profit. And so it'll be interesting to see. And I'm also, if this coronavirus really gets crazy, the DSO market, same thing. They've been burning through private equity cash like no tomorrow. And every single one I talk to, a third of their offices are crushing it, a third are okay, and a third are bleeding. And as soon as they get the funnel turned off of just cheap money being printed and loaned, they'll have to liquidate them. So how's your business doing? How old is it now?
So we're 3 years old. We started with 4 employees about 3 years ago. We're a little over 100 today.
Dang, and three years old?
Yes, sir.
Wow. And who's your target customer? Or is it contract for other DSOs who aren't quite big enough to have a call center like Heartland and Aspen, or is it the small independent? Who's your target?
To be honest, Howard, we work with the wide array. We work with some of the largest DSOs with over 200 locations, and we work with startup practices who are only open 2 to 3 days of the week. And so our goal is to give an amazing patient experience and to help dental practices capture untapped potential. And so that doesn't matter if you have 200 locations or if you're open 2 days of the week. We work with them all equally well.
And when they hear this, first thing they want to know is, how much does it cost, Cory?
Yeah, no, good question. So we've got different services, Howard. So if we're making outbound calls to schedule your overdue hygiene patients, it's just $25 per scheduled patient, no other fees, no contracts, no setup fees.
So that's basically it's if you don't do your job, it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at how wary dentists are of being ripped off by companies. And so we wanted to build a system that was consumer friendly and practice friendly. And so we take that risk onto our side, and we know what we're doing, and we're darn good at it. And so we know how many we can schedule. And for us, it builds a really friendly model to only charge if we schedule. Now, Howard, if the practice then is sending calls to us that they can't answer, it's just a cost per call. And it usually ranges from about $3.50 to $5 per call based on how many calls they're sending through in a given month.
$3.50 to what?
To $5 a call.
So it's not by the minute?
No, it's not by the minute. We just charge per patient that we speak with.
Okay, so the first thing was, let me see how I write this right. So if because I said in my uh, so if your call center acts on behalf of the dental offices to schedule patients that have not been in is it 6 to 36 months? Is that still the deal?
Still it.
Okay, so if so there it is. So if CallForce calls on behalf of your dental office to schedule a patient has not been within 3 to 6 months, it's $25 for every patient scheduled.
Yep.
That is just, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, who could not find value in that?
I mean, the crazy thing is too. So the average practice has a churn or attrition rate of 17% a year. And so just to stay steady, we need to add 17 new patients per year per 100 patients that we have. And so our goal is to limit that. We're always worried about bringing new patients in the front door. But what if we only lose 11% a year or 9% a year? How much more is our practice going to grow? And it's so darn simple, Howard.
So on that 17% churn rate, it's got to be that because the country has a 10% move rate. So like I'm in Phoenix, you're in Salt Lake. I mean, Phoenix, 10% of the town flips every year. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at that churn rate, where did you get that number? Do you have any link or data, or can you post it on Dental Town, or is it where did you get that number?
I can send you the link. It's from Dental Products Report. They also have that online as well.
Right on.
Yeah, we have a 17% average patient attrition rate. And then we're on average spending $150 to $300 to acquire a new patient. So why don't we spend a quarter of that or less than a quarter of that to keep our patients, some of them, so that we don't always have to have new patients to regenerate that?
Okay, so I call you up. Is there a setup fee? Is there a monthly retainer fee? Is there a bare minimum fee?
On our answering service, there is a $99 monthly fee, and that's only to cover the fact that we have staff here from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, and sometimes the phone rings and sometimes it doesn't, and we dedicate small teams to a certain number of offices, so there's more of a custom feel.
So your answering service is open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yep.
7 days a week.
6 days a week, but soon.
What's that? Monday through Saturday. Soon to be what?
And so soon, before the end of the year, you'll see us open 7 days of the week.
You know, when I open up my office, I open up 7 days a week, and it was my pastor Don Snyder at the church across the street from me is the one who was outraged by that. He just passed lately, and he was the one who. So I thought, oh hell, I'll just close Sunday. But I was open 7 days a week, and he did not like that. So your answering service is $99 a month, and you'll answer the phone 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So the dental office has a 17% churn rate. So basically, they call you, and CallForce will make outbound calls to reschedule patients that fell off your recall system and charge you $25 for every time they make an appointment.
Yeah, and some important things to note about this, Howard, is we're actually calling from the practice's phone number. So these calls are not going out from a generic, local number, but they're coming from the dental practice. And the biggest thing is that we're calling from 5 to 7:30 at night when people are actually home.
From when to when?
5 to 7:30 at night. And what we've seen
5 to 7:30 at night.
Yeah. Right. And what we've seen from that is patients are twice as likely to answer their phones. And so we're able to reach the patients who work all day, and we're actually able to schedule them, and they have the discretionary income to be able to get work done in the dental practice.
So then the next question, I'm an operational logistics guy, so that's where my walnut brain goes. You'll listen to a dentist say, oh, my labor is 25%. I say, so does that include health insurance, uniforms, continuing education? So when you call, there's so many practice management systems. You're in Utah. Hell, there's Weave, there's Dentrix. Dentrix is the biggest one right in your backyard. There's SoftDent, there's EagleSoft. are you making the actual appointment in the dental office practice management software all the way from Salt Lake City?
Yep. So we have remote access and we are scheduling directly in.
And so if my homie's listening to you and he's like, well, I'm on something that, was made a long time ago. What's some old ones? What's that one that bought the Kodak system? SoftDent was bought by...
We work with SoftDent,
PracticeWorks. Oh my God. I was on SoftDent for 30 years and finally I had to quit just because my own IT guy says, can we just get something that doesn't crash? I don't care what it is. Just give me something that doesn't crash. But on Dentaltown, the overwhelming favorite by a mile, and I've been on Dentaltown 4 hours a day since probably 1994. Open Dental is the favorite. So
we are seeing open dental rates, especially with startup practices that we're working with, Howard, grow at a tremendous rate.
So in new startups, Open Dental is beating Dentrix and EagleSoft?
Oh, by a large measure.
So then what do you think? I mean, Henry Schein's all out there, all excited about their new Henry Schein One department. They're rolling up all these digital plays and all that kind of stuff. What do you think of Henry Schein Henry Schein One, which is their whole thing where the sink of that would be Dentrix. I mean, Dentrix would be the bottom of the funnel, and that's the digital platform of the dental office. What do you think of Henry Schein One, who owned by Dentrix and owns Dentrix, and the future of that?
I mean, it's interesting. I think the real reason people are going to open dental is the cost.
Right.
I mean, especially as a startup, the lure of paying $119 per year once you're off their support is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, we run into some people with some pretty hefty Dentrix bills.
So open dental costs how much? What are you seeing?
I think it's $169 a month to start. And then after you're off their support plan, it goes down to like $119 a month, which is a fourth of the cost of Dentrix or EagleSoft.
So Open Dental is $169 a month, but if you go off their support, then it falls to what?
119 or something close to that.
Yeah, and then what would you say Dentrix cost?
Oh, I've seen. It just depends how much you're using too. I mean, if you're using Dentrix e-services with that, but I would say in the $300 to $400 range is very fair.
Yeah, and Heartland is in. Heartland Dental is in Effingham, home of EagleSoft. And they would even use the EagleSoft. Could you imagine being EagleSoft in Heartland and everybody's like, well, I assume you got the Heartland account. You went to grammar school with all these people. And they're like, no, we suck so bad we didn't even get the guys we went to grammar school with. What do you think of their future?
I'm not as familiar with, so obviously Dentrix is right up the road and Henry Schein One's headquarters is 10 miles from here. So I'm much more familiar with them. But I think EagleSoft is in that same realm of they're more expensive. They offer a great service, though. People love Dentrix. People love EagleSoft. I think just especially in the startup phase, people are very cost conscious. And Open Dental is much more customizable because they are an open source solution.
Now, are you already thinking about an exit strategy to Henry Schein One? They're right up the street from you. The DSOs are the fastest growing segment of the industry, which means the single solo provider has to be contracting. I was talking to a dentist the other night. He said, it's almost like the solo practitioner guys we're shrinking. It's like, well, how could a DSO grow if you're not shrinking? Is this a new geometry? So are you already thinking of an exit strategy to Henry Schein One?
That's definitely not in our playbook. Our biggest thing right now is we have some solutions and long-term projects that we want to work on. And that's really all that's within our sight. Eventually someone may approach us. It might be the right solution. It might not, but we're much more concerned with finding the right partner or not finding the right partner and adding value for our practices than an exit strategy.
Wow. So do you like, when you're doing the remote access, is it easier to do remote access with an open dental client just because since the framework's open, you can it's so much more to program to, whereas like Henry Schein, because Dentrix, their closed system, the reason open dental even started was because Jordan Sparks a dentist in Oregon. Bleaching had came out, and that was back in the 80s, and he tried to get in there and download the data because he wanted to make labels to put on a postcard. And to his discovery, not only could he not do it, he was amazed at how much time and effort they had programmed a wall around it. So they called the founder, and the founder said, "Well, yeah, you can't do that. That's my data." And the guy, he just blew a gasket. What do you know? I buy something from you, and it's yours. So basically, that's why it was started. So is Open Dental from operational logistics? It's an open platform. Does that make it easier on your end?
Not from a remote access standpoint, just because remote access is much more dependent upon the servers that you're logging into and the infrastructure, such as the computer. But Open Dental is extremely easy to use. But I would say for our staff, Dentrix and EagleSoft are really easy to use as well. I mean, they've built a lot of very easy to use reports.
Okay, so I'm here mostly for the kids. You know, it's a transfer of knowledge, and so let's say she just got out of Roseman Dental School. She's $400,000 in student loans. She wants to set up her own dental office, and she's listening to you and saying, "All right, Cory, Pinegar like vinegar. Pick one. If I was going to open up a practice management software system, which one would you get today?"
Open Dental. Hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just so obvious. I don't know what. So, do you think the people at Henry Schein One even know that? Do you think they're aware of that?
I don't know what's happening on Henry Schein One sometimes, I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, they invite people to come. You know, if you're a key opinion leader, and I am, if they're drunken Irish people that had fallen off the boat, you know, I'm their key opinion leader, and they'll even, I mean, their own presentation. Well, you know, if you go in and you turn on the computer, you can see that 70 to 80% of the software is never going to be used. So here's our new updates for next year. And it's like, okay, that doesn't even make sense. I would rather, you know, when I go return my car at Hertz, they come out there with a wireless palm pad and they ask me like 6 exact questions. We're done. When I go to check out at the Hyatt Regency, you know, it's like 4 bulletproof questions. Boom, done. Everything's done. You call up a dental office. They open up Dentrix. You know, you got somebody that's working for $15 to $20 an hour. There's 40,000 things she can do, and she doesn't even know what to do. And you're like, okay, well, can I X out all this crap that you say at your own seminars that 85% of it's never, ever used ever? Can we clean all this crap up so that I can have an operations logistics? Like you'll go in there and say, well, how many new patients you get? Oh, well, Shirley forgot to ask who may we think for, you know. So it's just, it is so Dentrix. In fact, when a dentist tells me he likes Dentrix, I mean, I just, it's like, okay, I already know what I'm dealing with. You just change your whole, it's like walking out of Princeton and going back to grammar school. And that's cool, but you just know you're dealing with someone who has no idea what they're talking about from a operational logistics point of view. But I don't think Henry Schein has a clue. I have no indication that they know how bad it is. And EagleSoft, they even admitted they didn't know. But anyway, so back to the deal. So Open Dental, it's open. It's $169 a month. Why do you think the best time to call patients is between 5 p.m. and 7:30 at night?
I mean, it's flat when you can actually reach people. People work during the day. People are picking up their kids from school. People are busy doing things. And so why are we trying to reach people when they're already out and about? And so if we can call from those 5 to 7 o'clock hours, you're home, you have your schedule in front of you, you have 5 minutes to talk, and you build rapport with the patient because the practice believes someone's staying behind. The doctor asked him to call me. It builds this family touch, this family part of dentistry that people yearn for. I still go to the same dentist that we do in Salt Lake because there's this family feel. He knows what's happening in my life, and our goal is to bring that feeling back.
Wow. So you call, when you make the call, it doesn't look like a spammer because you're using the dental office phone number, and so you just hire people and they just dial for dollars.
I mean, they go through some pretty immense training. Usually we have part of our team that has immense dental background. Some don't. They go through some pretty significant training, and then they start making these calls and going from there.
Well, excuse me, I have the coronavirus. I can't tell if it's the corona or the Ebola virus. But by the way, it's the biggest news story of the day. And So I just want to ask you real quick. They are. I know a lady who is very, very stressed because she's LDS, and she always grew up hearing that if they ever called the missionaries back home, it was a sign of the end of the world. And here it is today. She had to show this to me in a stress way. How COVID-19 continues to affect Latter-day Saints worldwide. The temple in Japan temporarily closed to prevent a measure in response to concerns. So far, missionaries in 14 missions across 17 countries have been affected by changes implemented. What do you think about this? I mean, no one really knows the answer, but you're in Salt Lake. Did this scare a bunch of people in Salt Lake when the Church of Jesus Christ is closing down temples?
So a lot of missions. So they're redistributing. So missionaries who are, let's say, in Japan, who are close to finishing their 2-year to year and a half mission, they're sending home early. And then they're redistributing those missionaries into other missions until, it's safe to return. So they're not shuttering everything. I think there's like 400 missions all in, but it will be very interesting, Howard, to see how that affects the U.S. and how that's going to affect missions in Italy. And I mean, if this thing blows out of proportion, it really could be a big deal.
I think obviously the person who's going to suffer the most is China. That's the one who's had almost 90% of all the deaths, et cetera. But I think it's going to be the kiss of death because people outsourced to them because it was cheaper. And then when you had that big earthquake in Japan, and they just lost a few factories. The Lexus line, like my Lexus car dealer, he couldn't get a part for my car for like a year. And so the first supply chain it'll just be so much more efficient. But then you learn that kind of efficiency has no redundancies. And I bet there's 500 CEOs in America right now saying, why are we outsourcing everything to one single country? Does that make any sense at all? And so they're going to start moving that around. So I think their neighbors, Vietnam, India, small towns in America, I think a lot of jobs are going to come home because of that. It's going to be an interesting thing. So rollover call. So first of all, you said about the training. The one thing I noticed, because I've seen a lot of call centers. I've seen Effingham's, Heartland's. I've seen Aspen's. I've seen, when I'm traveling, I always try to meet the people like you, the smart movers and shakers, and figure out what's going on. Like Bob Fontana's call center, they won't hire you if you have any dental experience. They say, if you got a bad golf swing, hell, you can spend your whole life with lessons and not get rid of it. You always want to start with a small kid. You don't want to, like my 2 oldest sisters are Catholic nuns. Do you think I could have a 1-day training session and make him Hindu? I mean, it's impossible. You got to get them when they're young. So they want no experience. Did you find that correlation or are you actively looking for ex-dental receptionists?
I think we're more looking for personality, for tone of voice. Everything that we're doing, Howard, is trainable. Is it nice to have some dental knowledge sometimes? Absolutely. So we are definitely not against it. We're definitely not for it. We're looking for the right people culturally. We're looking for the right people on the tone of voice side. We're looking for people who are quick learners. And so those are the things that we often are checking against.
And how do you so tell us some of the things. There might be someone listening to you right now that needs a new person up front. Are you having and I assume that this is all measurements based, so you're not just making stuff up. Are you having better luck with girls versus boys, older, younger?
So most of we're based in you've probably been to Provo before, Howard, or around here.
Oh my God, that's where the god of dentistry was born. Gordon Christian and his wife Rella. Hell, the first year out of school, I went there every month for a year with Mike DeTola. So yeah, I know Provo.
His office is literally a mile right behind me.
And then where's his son? Is that his son close to you too? Will?
It's a little more up the road, but yeah, I mean 1.5 miles, 2 miles away.
Is Mikey still up in Canada, or did he ever come home to Provo?
I don't know. I've met Gordon a few times, but probably not as many times as you have. My dad or my grandpa actually was dental school roommates with him.
In Kentucky?
At USC.
Oh, okay. So So you hire quick learners. Do you look for boys versus girls? Is there any other demographic? Quick learners?
Yeah, females definitely perform better. That's just a familiarity part to the dental world, is most people expect to call receptionist wise and speak to a female. But we do have male parts of our staff as well. And then once they're a part of our team, that's the really important part. Every call that we have is listened to, and they actually go through a 34-point grading part. And
Now,
that's where training becomes a big deal.
so have you ever thought about making that a business because what I really liked about the Scheduling Institute is, I felt like, everybody that became a dentist was a Me Too product. I mean, nobody here could have ever invented dentistry if you came after Pierre Fauchard or G.V. Black. That's a Me Too product. But what I liked about the Scheduling Institute way back in the day, I think they must have started, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, was how Jay Geyer realized that the dentists all went to dental school, the hygienists went to school, the dental assistants went to school, but the receptionist just wasn't trained. And he did that, and it was a big thing. And I know lots of people that are clients. Our office did it for years. Have you ever thought about doing that 34-point listening to dental offices where you just dial into them and give them a report for money?
Yeah, it's an option. There's a lot of companies such as the Scheduling Institute and Front Office Rocks and other training organizations who do it really good. That's not our expertise, and we don't want to be a jack of all trades. We want to be good at a few things, and we go to learn from these organizations actually all the time, Howard, so that we can be better at what we do. We do not want to be centered on our own knowledge, but we want to be talking to people continuously to improve how we're interacting with patients, to convert more new patients, and to make dentists' lives easier.
Well, and can you briefly tell us the lowest hanging fruit of takeaways from Front Office Rocks, and then again for the Scheduling Institute?
Whoa, I mean, it would be really good to bring in some team members, but I think things that we notice that make such a big difference right off the call is the simple words. Do you take my insurance? How you're going to react to that? The tone of voice which you're reacting to people to, how you're asking questions. And especially when you're scheduling, you should never be asking a yes or no based question, but you should be saying, hey, I have Tuesday and Wednesday available. When works best for you? Because again, you're putting them in a position where they have to say yes or yes, not yes or no.
Yeah, when Linda Miles talked me into that a long time ago, and she's smarter than I am, but I don't know. It was confusing because she would say, "Well, don't offer them all. Don't ask them when." She said, "Just say, do you want a Monday at 2 or a Wednesday at 3?" And I just think a lot of people just like, and they just pick one. And I don't. But is that correlating to not showing up?
Is it? So that's a good question. We wouldn't start it that way. We're going to ask them, is afternoons or mornings better? And is there a preferred day of the week? And then we're going to present those times. I agree with you, Howard, that you can't throw out Monday at 11 and Tuesday at 3 and expect one of those to work. But if we can narrow, okay, here are their preferred times, here are our open slots, and then make the presentation, we could be a lot better off.
Yeah, and it's very different in Phoenix and Salt Lake because the first thing we have to ask is, well, when is your prison release date? We just need to know when they're going to get out of jail first. What about Front Office Rocks?
That was kind of a good summary of all of them. But yeah, there's nothing like in particular. Laura's even come out and spoken with our team before in person for training.
Isn't she just amazing?
Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah. I think, she is a, so what is, so you say you only want to do, focus on a couple things to do it right. What do you want to focus on mostly? It sounds like what you mostly want to do is reactivate recall.
No. So,
okay.
Here's and then this is a darn good question, is we look at a dental office, and there's certain facets within a dental office, Howard, that have a ton of opportunity that we're not capturing. Unscheduled treatment, missed phone calls. I mean, 28 to 32% of all phone calls that we see, Howard, go to voicemail. 30%. And so 50% or more of all patients are overdue for their professional hygiene cleaning. We're looking at these really gaping holes within a dental practice, and our goal as a company is to give them systems and solutions to fill that, so that as a manager and as a dentist, you're not as stressed.
So those are some incredible numbers. So you're saying 30% of incoming calls are not answered.
Yeah. And even on marketing calls, we see a 33% no answer rate. That means if we just spent $1,000 last month on generating phone calls, $330 of that was not answered. And if you don't call back within a 7-minute gap after that, Howard, they're going to call the next Google listing. And most practices aren't, because they're too busy. And so that's where we come in, because we don't ever want any patient to go to voicemail.
Yeah. So if it did go to voicemail, the dentist driving home wouldn't even know how many voicemails were left today. So,
Yep.
you know, we were talking about Dentrix and EagleSoft, and we agree that Open Dental is the best. We're still living in 2020, where if you ask any dentist, well, how many people landed on your website? I don't know. Well, for every 100, how many converted and called your incoming line? I don't know. For the incoming line, how many were not answered? Like you just had 30%. They don't know. How many voicemails? They don't know. Well, how many have to come in before they convert one to scheduled to come in? I don't know. How many people have to come in with a cavity before someone schedules to have it done and give you $1? And so I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, I believe that, you know, the average dentist does $785,000. They're taking home about $180 a year, $180,000 a year. And to do that $180,000, for every 100 people that land on the website, only 3 call. It takes 3 people to call for even 1 to come in. And 3 people have to come in with a cavity for your treatment presentation to get 1 to do the work. So the funnel of this is like, oh my God, if you could fix any part of this funnel, it's just so easy. Now, do you think the math is right, wrong? Is that how you see it?
So I don't know a ton on the website converting side, I'll be honest, but for every 100 new patients that calls in the United States, 23 of them become new patients. So a lot of the time, practices are touting these 60, 70, 80% conversion rates, which is insane. But it's really good that we've surveyed this data and other people have backed it up. 23% of new patient calls actually convert. And so right there, but then you have to say, okay, well, we're missing 30% of our phone calls even before that. So we're leaking 30% of our opportunity before it even becomes a phone call.
So you lose 3 out of 4 just to start. You're saying for every 100 new patients that call your dental office, only 23 convert and schedule.
Yep.
And you're saying that 30% of incoming calls are not answered. Do you have a stat on how many voicemails will never be listened to or heard?
So if a new patient calls your practice, there's a 14% chance that they will leave a voicemail. And so a lot of the times you're going to say, well, how many voicemails got left yesterday? Okay, 1 or 2. That means most likely 10 people called. And so voicemails is a very deceiving number. And the people who are most likely.
Don't tell me. An old lady with 5 cats.
6 cats.
Says the man who has 3 cats and 4 dogs. But you say only 14% will leave a message?
Yep.
And what's your thoughts on that? It's deceptive because you think you got these messages, but it's deceptive because you missed 86% of the calls?
Yeah, I mean, the other 86% of them did not leave a voicemail. And that's changed a lot, Howard, over time, because back in the day, like there was one person you called and you waited for their call back. But in today's world, if you don't get a call back in a couple minutes, you call the next Google listing who has good reviews.
Yeah.
We're an inpatient world, and so we need to build our practices that way so that they say, hey, go to Howard's office. They always pick up the phone. And it's a snowball effect. If you start picking up the phone, if you're trained properly, your word of mouth is going to grow, your patient experience is going to be better, and you're going to be the practice that succeeds in your neighborhood. Don't build it to what it should have been 20 years ago. Build it to what people want today. And today, people want the immediate access to dental help.
Okay, so I love I love measurements. Any other numbers coming off the top of your head? You said 30% of incoming calls are not answered. Only 14% leave a voicemail. For every 100 new patients that call your office, only 23 will convert and schedule an appointment. What other numbers come to your mind?
Well, okay, here's something interesting, and I don't know if we want to dive down this rabbit hole. So if you were a practice, Howard, that had 2,500 active patients, how many new patients do you need to generate a month to keep up with attrition?
Well, you were saying earlier that it's a what would you say the attrition rate was 17%?
Mm-hmm. So you're looking at generating, just on a soft number side, 25 to 50 new patients a month to stay even, Howard. And that's why it's so darn important that we start looking on systems on the back door, that we're calling them, that we're texting them, that we are sending reminders in the mail. Because if we can begin to reach these people, those 25 to 50 new patients could add to growth. Because you could tout in your monthly marketing meetings and say, hey guys, we had 38 new patients this month. But what if you lost 44? You didn't grow. It's a misleading number.
Yeah, so I've been lecturing this for literally since 1990. So that's 30 years. This God, when is it? It's May. I think it's September 20th this year. It'll be 30 years. But what I used to teach them, I'd be lecturing, and it'd be funny because I did stand up too, where I would just get the coffee pot at the lecture deal, and I'd take a coffee, and I'd just keep pouring it and letting all the deal. And I said, now look, every dentist I know, okay, you've had your dental office for 25 years. You have one hygienist in room one. You work at it too. Every month for decades, you put 20 new patients on her schedule. Well, come on, dude, do the math. 20 would have to come off the schedule. In fact, it's funny. You'll go into a small town of 5,000 people, and you'll meet some 65-year-old guy. He's been there for 40 years. And I say, well, what would you need the most? And he goes, new patients. I'm like, dude, you've been in a town of 5,000 for 4 decades. How the hell could you need a new patient? But it is. As patient flow equals cash flow. Do you agree?
100%. I mean,
so here's my other here. You're not supposed to do drugs, I've heard, and drugs are addictive and they're bad and they lead to all these bad things. I think marketing is the drug of choice, because I look at the greatest companies like Walmart, and they're in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I grew up in Wichita. My dad would take me trout fishing back there in the days in the 60s and the 70s, and tell me all these Sam Walton stories where nobody did returns. And so a lady walked up to Helen after church and said, I bought these shoes from your husband, and the heel fell off. And I went back to her, take them back, and they wouldn't take them back. And I just went to say, I'll never shop at that store again. Well, in that small town, you realize, well, you're not going to market for new patients. You're going to close the back door. So all of these policies that Walmart started, no questions return, everyday same shopping, no sales, because people come and tell and say, so you're telling me it'll be cheaper on the 4th of July than on July 5th? Are you playing me for dumb? Are you a liar? And so he pioneered all this stuff. And I have always noticed that dentists in big towns like Salt Lake, Phoenix, and LA are far less consumer oriented than in towns of 25,000 or less. 25,000 or less, you sneeze on the east side, everybody heard it on the west side. Provo, how many people live in Provo?
50,000.
But it's probably a pretty small town feeling there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the bottom line is you want to find out why people are upset, why they don't come back, why they're mad, but dentists are cottage industries are always doing the most marketing for new patients. But mature industries like Southwest Airlines, Chase Bank, they all are into reward programs for their existing customers. Southwest Airlines would never look for a new patient unless it was somebody that was just born in the hospital the other day. So they all want programs, loyalty programs. So cottage industries are into marketing new patients, and great industries are into loyalty programs. And this really isn't marketing or loyal product. I call what you're doing operations and logistics, and you just need to get this done. So the question is, in the marketing, is what does it cost to spend marketing to get a new patient versus what does it cost for you to give you money for operational logistics to get that call answered in return, reactivate that patient that fell off, all that. So what do you think the cost is for a new patient, and what do you think that would equivalent be from your services?
The cost of reactivating a patient versus acquiring a new patient is about 1/6 to 1/12 the cost using our services.
Okay, give me the numbers there. I gotta.
So
remember, I'm old. So reactivating a patient costs 1/6. Is that what you said?
Let's dive into the numbers. So based in the United States, the average cost to acquire a new patient is between $150 and $300.
$150 and $300?
Yeah, and that depends really, what state and area you're based in. Obviously, it costs more to acquire a new patient in New York than it does in Provo, Utah. So that's your average cost. Now, if it costs us, or if they pay us $25 to reactivate a patient, then it would be 1/6 to 1/12 of that cost.
Wow, it's such a. And the other thing is you know something's wrong when you're going against the grain. You know what I mean? And changing dental offices is going against the grain. People don't like new anything. They like everything the same. They eat the same 10 meals. Every day Batman comes on, the same bat station at the same bat channel at the same bat time. They don't want to leave your office. So when they're leaving your office, something went incredibly wrong. It should be a hell of a lot easier to get them to stay than leave. I mean, to get them to leave your office took enough negative force energy to push this animal away from everything he wants, which is the same.
No, I couldn't agree more. And we actually report to our offices bad experiences or why patients are not coming back. So there's an end of the day summary that goes out that will break down everyone who we did schedule and everyone we spoke to who didn't schedule and why they did not schedule.
So what percent will leave a bad review?
We don't. That's probably a better bird eye or podium. And we're not asking for a review.
No, I don't mean a review, but share with you why you go to reactivate them and they tell you why they're not going back.
And all we're simply going to say, I don't know the hard data on this. I can get it by this afternoon. But we simply say, hey, I'm so sorry you had a bad experience. Is there any information that you can provide us so that we can better serve patients like you in the future? We collect that information, we say, I'm so sorry, and we pass that along to the office.
The funniest one I ever heard, because it just hurt my friend's feelings, it just wounded his soul. He likes to sing, and he sings while he's working, and this patient said that he was the worst singer. But anyway, he still talks about it 25 years later. So you're like, okay, I think you've been wounded on this one. Have you ever heard that one before? He sings while he works.
Okay. I will have to we'll have to survey some of our team members, but I haven't heard of that one.
Any low-hanging fruit summaries that come to your mind about why people don't come back, or what the genre is?
Obviously we run into a lot of billing experiences that they were, told a certain amount, then they were billed by the insurance, or they received a bill for a different amount.
Money's the answer. What's the question?
Yeah. Long waits in the dental practice, getting rescheduled, inconveniently, some of those, but I don't have any hard data about it. Those are just ones that I've seen on the reports.
But what he just said, money's the answer. What's the question? And that's why they stopped doing. I remember for years the big thing in dentistry was they'd bring in 5 or 10 dentists, they'd show them a new product, and everybody would talk about it, and that would go back to the CEO, and they did it for 10 years. I was involved in a lot of them. They don't do it anymore because the whole thing of that, humans want to tell you what you want to hear, and it's very hard for a human to tell you, hey, I think you're great, your grand idea that's the neatest thing in your life, I think it's the stupidest idea and it's not going to go anywhere. Well, humans just aren't wired to, we're a social animal. We're like honeybees, and we're programmed to work hard, and we all work together, and we build the beehive together, and it's just completely unnatural to say, actually, I think that's a bad idea, you're dumb and you suck. So they just, but money's the answer. What's the question? It's always money, 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 because that's the medium of exchange. And so besides money, insurance, billing, financial arrangement, and let me just tell you one thing on about the money. When you're a dentist and they start saying to you, well, dentist is like, well, would you like to save the tooth or pull it and throw it away? Well, who wouldn't say save it? That's like saying, would you like to live or die? And you're saying, well, would you like it to have ideal, optimum oral health? No, I'd like to have crappy oral health. I want to have one tooth. My goal in life is to have one tooth and and win a corn on the cob eating contest. So of course they want ideal and optimum. And then they say, well, but you have to drop the fee. You have to say, well, it's $250 to pull the thing, throw it away, you'll be out of pain, and we'll be done with it. And it's actually $2,500 if you want to do a root canal and a crown. Are you thinking more the $250, throw it away, the $2,500, keep it? Well, she didn't even start listening until you gave her the prices. It was when you said $250 extract, $2,500 keep. That's the first time she turned on. Now, if it turns out that it wasn't $2,500 and it's because of her insurance, this and that, those are details. But the front desk coming into doing the financial arrangement has double the success rate if the doctor that's going to do it, look at you in the eye, drop the fee number. And my homies, not only they don't do it, half of my homies, they don't even know what their prices are. If you ask them, well, how much is a crown? Oh, wow, I don't know, 900, 1,000. So you got to name the fee. The doctor has to drop the fee while they're looking them in the eye. But what else is the low-hanging fruit that you've seen besides money and insurance?
Oh, I mean, I wish I had better data on this. I don't want to give anything off the cuff, but yeah, money, insurance, people have bad experiences with the dentist, I've seen a few that they didn't get enough numbing or sedation before, so they felt in certain parts of the procedures. But besides that, I'm not too educated on it.
So you said a new patient in the U.S. costs between $150 to $300 depending on your location. Okay, well, what's the alternative? If I don't want a new patient, what is it? What would I compare it to for you to reactivate a patient?
What we're comparing it to, yeah, the 25, the percentage that we got there, the 1.6 or 1/12, is just the cost for us to reactivate.
Wow, so it costs $150 to $300 to get a new one, and it costs $25 if you dial into my software and reactivate a single patient. Yeah. I mean, God dang, what a no-brainer business model.
We're consistently running reports for our practices that will say, this is how much you spent, these are who showed, and these are the production values that came off each of these patients. We're looking at every dollar spent with us at $15 in production.
1 to 15.
Yep, 1 to 15.
So when you do those reports, again, to make those reports, I could see how you could schedule these reports or program them for the open dental client, but for Dentrix and EagleSoft and with remote access, is it hard to generate those reports? Because I would think it's all details. If I get my bill from you and it says, just give me more money, I might say, no, I don't want to do it. But if it says, hey, dude, last month you gave me $1 and it turned into $3 in your office. We scheduled woulda, shoulda, and coulda. They each had a filling and a crown and a root canal. So you gave us $25 and we made you $1,000. I assume you want to do it again next month. Is that how your statement looks?
Yeah, we're able to run those. We don't run them for every office every month yet, but we're working on that. I mean, I saw a report go out last month, Howard, that we scheduled 24 patients for them. So that's $600. And they produced $24,400 of dentistry.
Sweet. So where do you think your future is? I always tell people on this show, I'm sorry to tell it, but I know my homies. They could have 35% labor cost and almost bankrupt and still off to New York City to see some implant seminar at the Hyatt Regency, and they don't. And I tell them, if your idea is business and it's a no-brainer and you're going to make money, go talk to the DSO people because they'll get it. But you talk to my artist friends, they don't listen. So do you see, like, what percent of your business, and when I say DSO, I just mean group practice. I'm trying to get myself to stop saying that word DSO because it's really just group practice. And what percent of your client is group practice versus solo practice?
I'd say we're probably 40% group practice based, 60% individual based. Where do I see our future going?
So you're only 40% group practice and 60% solo practice?
Yeah, I would say that. Or I'd also group the 1 to 2s as solo practice. So if you own 2 offices, I'd group you on that solo practice category.
See, I say group is whenever there's more than one dentist in a if there's 2 dentists in a building, that's a group practice.
Okay. Ooh. 60-40 probably flips the other.
And what it is don't fight Mother Nature. It's a social animal. People get sick. People have things to do, and they don't want to be married to this office where they just can't ever leave ever. And then when you're in there working, it's so dang fun to be able to go talk to a case to another dentist. You can't walk up to your receptionist and ask her if that's internal or external resorption. And also the quality goes up because when you find the absolute disaster, there's a lot going on. There's usually some challenges of depression, mental issues, substance abuse, divorce. They're falling through they're falling off the edge. Well, a dental assistant can't walk up to you and say, hey, this work is clinically unacceptable. But if you have a group practice and another dentist is seeing that, so group practice is going to take over. So you're saying that on that definition, it's probably 60-40.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how many clients do you have now? You said what did you say? You went from 3 employees to 100?
Yeah, we're a little below 1,000.
You have 1,000 employees. And so tell us what an average 1,000 dentists or 1,000 dental offices?
Offices.
Okay, so what is an average dental office look to you? I mean, are you doing the rollover calls, the evening reactivation?
It's all a la carte. And so we see our fastest growing service is our answering service. But where we started and our original ground is reactivation. And we see clients use reactivation for 6 months, like how it's going, add the answering service, and then they stop reactivating for a few months. Then they come back. And so it's very come and go flow. There's no contracts. Our motto as a company is we need to provide value or no one should have any reason to stick around.
Okay, so for you kids who are still a little green behind the ears in dental kindergarten, he just said something that I never want you to miss that. He said no contracts. Imagine, look at a dental consultant. You sign a contract and you don't agree with her, you think it's horrible, whatever, but due to the contract, you have to see her every month for the rest of the year. How dysfunctional is that? And the other, the craziest contract is your marriage license. I mean, could you imagine if you said to your neighbor and your classmate in school, hey, do you like being my friend at dental school? Well, yeah, Shirley, you're my best friend at dental school. Well, if you want to continue being my best friend, you need to sign this contract. And if you were to ever quit being my best friend and be Melanie's best friend, I get your car. Just no contracts. Just don't do contracts. What were your thoughts on the no contracts? Is this something you learned at Weave? Where did you get this profound?
It's a core belief. Like, I think.
Is it because you got a prenuptial arrangement when you got married, right?
I am not married. Let's back that up.
So you're no contracts.
I have no contract with anyone.
Okay, so right now you're on the top of the ski slope, buddy. You're on the top. Just keep the no contract thing going. So the fastest growing area is the answering service, but you started with the reactivation.
Yep.
So how many services do you actually have? Reactivation,
We also do a managed website chat. So we can put a widget on the practice's website, which allows us to interact in their behalf. So instead of the practice having to worry about who's chatting in and scheduling them, we have a team that's dedicated to scheduling them straight into your software.
So is most of your team, okay, so on that website chat, is that a big deal? I've heard people say that if you land on the website, there's no silver bullet, but there is a bunch of silver shotgun shells.
Yeah.
And so just load up a 12 gauge, and some of the silver shotgun shells, like number one, Google's the biggest search engine, it's owned by Alphabet. And on your website, you have an AOL email or a Yahoo, Microsoft. So keep it Gmail. They own YouTube, have a YouTube video. This chat thing, I hear people say that whatever your website is getting, that's what you'll get in addition to with the chat. And remember, the biggest bias you have in life is thinking that everybody thinks like you. Like if you just love Mexican food, you just think everybody else does. And with 8 billion people, 331 million in the United States, there's a lot of different markets. Like, just look at my 4 boys. If I call all 4 of my boys, one right after the other, 2 of them instantly drop the call and text me back, "What's up?" It's like, how could you text me this and not answer the phone? But it's just their personalities. They don't want to see, I don't know what it is, but do you have any stats on the managed website chat? I'm assuming it's a young person that also has Snapchat or I can't imagine a 57-year-old Irish dentist communicating with a chat bot on a website, but do they?
That's the important thing is dentists and dentistry has been late to catch on to the website chat game. Last time we looked, which is I think about 12 months ago, or a little less than that, maybe 10 months ago, only 9% of dental websites had a chat widget. And so right off the bat, if you're at work or if you're a millennial who does not like calling and you have a website chat, you are putting yourself ahead of the game.
So these are just people that don't like to talk to humans, I assume? I mean, why is somebody, are they wanting to do a website chat because they're in a bank that's getting held up and they're afraid to talk out loud and get shot? I mean, who are these people that want to do a website chat?
Okay, so that's a good question that we can dive into. First of all, they're millennials, and there's mothers who are busy with their children. There's, men and women who are at work and uncomfortable or unable to call, but they can sit on their computer and schedule that appointment. And then finally, and this is a really important part, there's shoppers. Shoppers are people who are not in the buying stage where they're ready to call yet. They're looking at prices. They're looking if you take their insurance, and they don't feel comfortable yet with making a call to that practice. Those people consistently will reach out on the chat and say, "Hey, I need a crown, or I need 4 crowns, or I need 2 veneers. What's the cost? Or do you work with my insurance?" And those are the really important people to help convert into a meeting with them.
So what is that feature called? A chat function or a chat bot? What do you call that?
You're not a bot, because a bot would imply that they're automated messages going back and forth. Our team, who literally sits right out the door from me, is sitting there replying to every message handwritten. So there's nothing automated about what we're doing.
And I'm sure you could sense that one's a human and one's a bot. I would think that the cost would always come up, because if you go to any other industry, like say restaurants, not only do they have their whole menu there, they have the price. You go to buy an airline ticket, they have the price. I mean, everybody has the price. Dentistry is still not even to that rate. They're only healthcare and government are the 2 most mismanaged industries ever. They're the only ones that have lines. I could have a pizza delivered in 30 minutes. I'll have to wait 3 hours in the emergency room. On Sunday, you couldn't get your teeth cleaned in Phoenix, Arizona if you had $1 million. But if you wanted to buy, cocaine and machine guns and ammo, you could find that on Sunday, but you couldn't find a dental cleaning. So it's so dental offices don't have their price on there, and I think it's crazy, because here's what I see with most dental offices. half of America has no dental insurance. The other half does. And so they call your office. How much is a crown? And you say, oh, it's $1,200. And then I say, well, what the hell did you say that for? You only charge $1,200 on 5% of your crowns because Delta's a PPO, everything's a PPO. You're on MetLife, United, and you've agreed to do all these crowns for $750. And 95% of all the crowns you do is for $750. But when Mary Ann called up your office, how much is a damn crown? You said $1,200. And so my answer is that if that's your number one chat function, it's just more data on why the dentist should be transparent with their prices. And the guys I know crushing it, I mean just crushing it, they'll be like a prosthodontist in a highly competitive market. And everybody's charging, $1,500 for an implant. And they'll go right on their website and put $1,199. And boom, I mean, it's everything. So I imagine when you say, what are you going to do in the future? Well, what percent of the people say, hey, I want to get your services, and then you're looking at their website thinking, oh, my God, this is a horrible website. And then what do you do with that? Do you have a website function or facility that redoes your website, or do you work with other people that redo the website?
We don't. We've seen a wide range of dental websites, and it's really important to have something that is decent, not from 1993 or 1994. But we don't do that in-house. Our whole service is based on helping them actually convert potential. And so we're all real humans looking to convert new patients and to help existing patients.
Who do you recommend to build the website?
Well, there's a couple companies right off the top of my head. There's Studio 88, which is very boutique. They're a little on the higher end. I'd have to think of some others, but yeah, if I've seen some of my favorite dental websites has come out from them.
Studio 88.
Yep.
And where are they out of?
They're based in Columbus, Ohio.
Studio 88, Columbus, Ohio. And what do you think qualifies as a good website? What is some low-hanging fruit so that my homies who would rather be at a bone grafting seminar can listen to this, and when they get to their office, what would be some easy, quick things to check for them to decide whether they had a good website or not?
Yeah, well, first of all, and so basic is it's got to look good. It's got to feel like somewhere that you'd want to be. And so it's going to be a balance of experience and also able to convert them into new patients, whether you're using a local med or trying to get them to call your office or use your website chat. It's got to make a home feeling. Video is really important these days for SEO purposes and also converting purposes. And so that's probably some of the nuggets that I've seen work great for practices.
So I'm trying to think of what I missed. I've really enjoyed this one. By the way, this isn't a commercial. Nobody bought an ad. I didn't give them money. I'm expecting the next time I'm in Salt Lake, or next time I see Gordon, that you will come out and buy me and Gordon shots of vodka. Is that I just remembered he won't do that. So I'm trying to think of what I forgot. By the way, if you haven't met Gordon Christian, the whole secret to success was his wife, Rella. And she's the most amazing woman. I always tell Gordon, well, hell, if I would have married Rella, I'd be Gordon. I mean, she's just, God, she's a machine. So let me see. Other thing. A couple questions real quick. Can you do overtime for a minute, or you got to run?
No, go for it.
Okay, the value. How does my homie know what the value of an overdue patient is?
Well, let's look right off the bat at what the ADA sees as the value of a patient. The ADA sees the value of a patient at $653 per year. And so if your patient is inactive, you're getting zero of that $653. And so every reactivated patient that you're bringing back is $653 a year. As long as they're active with your practice, the ADA says an active patient is on average worth that much.
Okay. And then how much would it cost to reactivate that person? $25.
Or if you're doing it in-house, it's just the cost of your staffing. So But I would say it's anywhere from $20 to $30 maximum based on how much time your staff is putting in.
That is amazing. So then, best system for capturing these patients.
I think it's stuff we've already touched on, Howard. It's calling at night. It's making sure in your practice management software to update those who have moved, who have passed away, who have had bad experiences. So you're not always calling these people, but that you're calling people who are actually eligible to come back into your office. So to have the most up-to-date records possible.
Is there anything that you were hoping I would be smart enough to ask and was too dumb to ask?
Oh,
I know.
No, I really think we touched on a lot of good stuff, and more so it was fun and it was educational, and I hope people take some of this stuff home and better their own practice, which betters their life in return.
Well, I wanted to open up with a coronavirus joke, but I was afraid you'd spread it. My gosh, this is just, well, you know, the way I see what you're doing is you're crushing it. I mean, this is going to be a monster company.
Yeah, no, we're growing quickly, but our biggest things is how can we continue to provide a really good patient experience that helps grow the offices. So our number one thing is the patients in the office, and we believe if we focus on that our company will grow in return, Howard.
And are you the only thing I worry about your company is that Heartland deal where if this really turns off to be the next wave, and I think you'll do it because I mean the call center. Bob Fontana's call center for Aspen, which is only for incoming calls for an Aspen dental office, it's larger than an aircraft carrier. I mean, it is a sea of people, and there are 211,000 Americans alive today with an active license to practice dentistry on the 331 million people. And I'll tell you, as DSOs grow bigger and bigger and bigger, the dentist isn't going to be able to compete on marketing, website, call center. Where the dentist is going to compete on is that it's going to be the same damn dentist has been here for 10, 20, 30 years, while these guys are just burning and churning. And the people, I mean, I was in one DSO. How pathetic is it when you have a complaint department? When someone's at the front desk say, you need to take that to the complaint department. Who the hell has a complaint department? Because it's just batshit crazy. And, I know the reason I want owner-operated, fee-for-service dentistry to go forward because I want you to have skin in the game. I've never seen any evidence of when someone who has skin in the game does worse than someone with no skin in the game. And if I'm not right, then just go ahead and take everything Abraham Maslow and said and Demings and just throw away the two greatest anthropologists of all time. Say, oh, by the way, they were wrong. Humans are humans. They'll always be humans. And I don't care if they go from smoke signals, telegraphs, telephones, the internet. It's still a monkey without a tail that you're dealing with. 1,000,000 years from now, they'll be sitting in a chair drinking a cold beverage out of their hand. I mean, I remember when they told me that the CD, the VCR was going to, the 8-track and the VCR were going to extinct the movie theater. And then it was the DVD. It's always something is going to distract it. But what they forgot is that, sometimes your wife just says, can we just get the hell out of the house? I just want to go out to eat, see a movie. Has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, just that you're out of the cave. You were in the Flintstones cave. And so the human is not going to change. And so I think the owner-operated fee-for-service private dental office will keep at least half of this market no matter what. But if you're going to keep half of this market, you can actually take the best strategies of the DSOs, and there's guys like CallForce to outsource this stuff to. So you're not going to be Cory Pinegar any more than you're going to be, the front office lady or Jay Geyer at any of those deals. Just outsource that stuff. And here's another thing to remember. If you don't like doing it, you're not going to do it real well. So I'll go into a dental office. You say you hate HR, and you just hate it. And I'm looking at the reports, say, okay, you got incredible staff turnover. Hey, I got an idea. Since you're really sucky at HR and you don't know how to find and attract and retain people, why don't you have someone else do it? And if you don't know the metrics of what's going on in your phones, but you do know calculus and the difference between a cosine and a tangent and physics, you know all these things, but you don't know the incoming calls, you don't have an interest in it. And I know from CallForce, just reading on the message board on Dental Town, I bet you they do a better job for your patients than Heartland's doing on their own and Fontana's doing on their own. So if you're going to fail a class, just pay money and get an A. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And I have no connection with this company. He hasn't given me any money. And if I asked him for money, I bet he'd send me a glass of vinegar because his last name is Pinegar. Cory Pinegar, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to my homies. And I hope to see you on the board soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a great day.